This is our first Twitter space on building crypto unicorns. So I think nobody will object that we are in a bear market. And my claim would be that unicorns are built in bear markets. So now is the time to actually get together, get ready, position yourself for the bull markets when they come. And today we have a great panel. We have a great panel of speakers and hosts for this Twitter space, and everybody's an expert in their own area. So we've got Victor, who is a co-founder of award-winning venture capital firm based in Dubai and Singapore. Hi, Victor. Say hello.
Hi, thank you, Irina, for having me here.
And also I can see Jessica. Jessica is one of the top journalists and marketeers in the crypto space. Hi, Jessica.
Hi, Irina. Thank you so much for having me on the space.
We've got Irina Berezina. She's the operational lead for Uplift DAO as a launchpad. Hi, Irina. Say hello.
Hi, Irina as well. Hi, thank you for inviting me.
Now, if Alex and Yusuf from Shisha Finance can accept the speaker invite to come up to the stage to speak, that would be fantastic. Oh, hi, Alex. Finally, we have you on the stage. How are you?
I'm really good right now. My connection is not super good because I'm actually heading to London for the Eurostar, but I'll do my best to stay connected.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So Alex is the muscles behind the actual unicorn called Swissborg, one of the most successful startups, and the back from the ICO days of 2017. So that's absolutely amazing, because as we all know, there's so many companies did not make it through the ICO stage, right? But Swissborg is here. Swissborg is thriving and showing as a bright example to all of the founders how to do that. Let's start from the point of view of setting up the stage. About 60% of startups fail. We're talking about normal startups. We're talking about startups in the normal, traditional Web 2, let's say, business, right? And there are many, many reasons for that. CB Insights listing multiple various reasons, such as they ran out of cash, there was no market need, they got outcompeted, the business model was flawed, there were all sorts of legal and regulatory changes, internal fights with the team, etc., etc., etc. There's so many reasons why startups did not make it. But when it comes to crypto space, the situation are actually even worse. Not only 90% of startups fail, but there's so many crypto startups that turn out to be scams and rug pulls. So if you're a founder, how do you work through that noise? How do you position yourself? How do you differentiate yourself? And also as an investor, how do you invest in startups that actually, with such a huge percentage of failure? Victor, can we start with you? What major reasons do you see for failures in the crypto space?
Actually, there is a book called The Founder's Dilemma, was done by Noam Wasserman. It's a professor for the business Harvard School. And he actually says that 65% of the startups, they fail because of conflict between founders. So you did mention that as one of the last reasons, but I would say it's actually one of the biggest ones. We've recently have heard stories of different projects that they have not succeed because of, they had quite a bit of discrepancies between the team members, and it's a clear example of how that plays a part. So I would say what kind of value message I would say to people that they actually want to build a good startup. It's to not underestimate the initial agreements that they have when you have brainstorming. To not let yourself get deceived by an initial acceptance or an agreement between the founders. Like try to explore as well other activities like team building, not only through video calls, but perhaps go to I don't know, do some sport, go fishing, go I don't know, like to different dinners. Try to establish a very strong relationship between the founders and make them try to see them as part of your family. We all have families, and I'm sure we all have had different issues in our families, but we all try to overcome them, right? So when you are establishing a multi-billion-dollar company, one of the things that you're going to be doing is working very hard, and a lot of time is going to be spent with the same people. So I think these activities of team building are extremely important for success of a company.
That's a great point, and as a lawyer, I see this all the time. I see that a group of friends get together and they decided to start a business. They don't think about setting agreements in place. They don't even discuss how it will be run and who will do what, and that's where the problems arise. I absolutely agree that, and I see that, and I see co-founders suing each other all the time. I see one co-founder having an issue that the other co-founder did not do something or did something that shouldn't have happened. I think it's a really great point, and that's a very good takeaway point. Have agreements in place with your co-founders and also with your team members. Alex, if you're in a good position to speak, can you let us know what you see as the main reason for startups failing?
Yeah, absolutely. So just to piggyback on what Victoria was saying, The Founder's Dilemma, which is a fantastic book, I really feel like the co-founders need to complete each other in ways. It's not just on the skill set, but also the personality. So those are two things: the mindset, the skill set, and the personality. To me, is the perfect match. Just like that high school crush where they fall in love, and you see that couple at your high school, and you just know that they were created to build something together. By the way, guys, at the bottom right of this corner, you see a little heart with a plus, and that you can actually show some of these stickers, which are very cool and maybe make it a little bit interactive. But who here has read the book, The Blue Ocean Strategy? Please show me your hands. If you click on that little heart plus sign at the bottom right corner of your screen, you can actually show your hands. All right, Irina is giving us a peace sign. But basically, the biggest mistake that we made at Swissborg, so the co-founder part was perfect. Anthony and Cyrus, they were really like the high school complete each other in so many different ways. But the biggest mistake that we made, and there's a framework in Blue Ocean Strategy that can really help you build the right business model, is many startups want to do too many things. What is that one thing that you can do better than anyone else? And that one thing that you can do better than anyone else needs to come with a framework, which is basically a quadrant with 4 boxes. It's not just about creating. It's also about making the compromises. What are you going to reduce? What are you going to eliminate in order to create something that has a strong USP, rather than trying to do everything like a jack of all trades, right? So really think about this, guys. Just look at Blue Ocean Strategy. Look at these quadrants. On one side is everything that you will raise the bar or create, so something innovative. But also always remember to reduce and eliminate, because if you don't reduce and eliminate, you cannot create and raise. So there are compromises on top of the USPs that every strategy needs to have.
That's great. Thank you for this, Alex. It's yes, I hope we all got that. But at the end of this Twitter space, we'll transcribe it all into an article and we'll share with everyone. Jessica, if you're in a good space to talk, do you mind telling us from your marketing mastermind point of view, what are the major issues that you're seeing? Why are startups failing and how to prevent that?
Thank you, Irina. So I think it's a really tough one because the crypto space is really this ecosystem that embraces innovation and new technology. And it's finding this sweet spot as founders and as C-levels of new organizations, how you can constantly be embracing new technology as it comes your way, but also sticking to your original business plan. So you might have a concept which you think is completely foolproof. It's helped you with your seed round of funding, but as new technology has come through the door, we witnessed the DeFi summer of 2020, for example. It's also about incorporating these new technologies along the way. But then, of course, that also comes with some challenges. Sometimes your original business model can be diluted, the message can be lost among the original investors, and also then it can be kind of confusing for new investors because your business model might be multifaceted. And it can be, I always say to newer projects, you should be able to identify and explain your concept in 1 or 2 sentences. I know a lot of us have reviewed tens of hundreds of white papers here among our cryptocurrency journeys, and it should never be more than the Satoshis of kind of 9 pages long. You should be really concise with your business model. You should be really concise with your elevator pitch and explaining what you do. And I think sometimes people get so overexcited in the crypto space because there is so many opportunities to add this element and to add this core feature and to really amplify your products and offerings that your message can get lost along the way. And when you deliver 5 messages of 5 different pillars of your organization, new potential investors might end up taking nothing away. They might end up being a little bit lost on where your first key points are, what your points of action would be, and how you would look to implement them. So I would say the sweet spot between innovation and sticking to your plan, and also having a really clear elevator pitch for new investors as well.
That's a great point. Communication is very important. I mean, as humans, that's how we interact, right? You tell me what you're planning to do, and I sort of either buy into your message or I say, no, I don't like your message, and I move on to find another story to join. That's a really, really great point. You know, have your messaging, have your, story, right? Explain what are you doing, because if you don't have a good story, you cannot get employees, you cannot get co-founders, you cannot get investors, you cannot get anybody join you, right? Otherwise, that's a fantastic point. Irina, from the operational point of view, when you get to see the projects, they already got to the point where they have a minimum viable product, they had private sales, they have, cool investors like Victor and New Tribe Capital and Shisha Finance, who is in the listener space, and they get to uplift already once they're ready for the public offering. What problems do you see at that point of time? And how would you make sure that these problems don't happen and the entrepreneurs have a better success?
I think what I see here is another maybe reason for failure, something very like crypto industry related, is the speed of the industry, how quickly it all developed. We all know how fast-paced it is. So the projects have to operate in this very fast-paced environment, and they have to make the decisions very quickly. They have to adapt to everything very quickly. And I think that could be an issue because lots of times they don't even have enough time maybe to prepare a proper strategy. And even if they do, they don't have time to implement it. Or later on, things can change and adapt in different ways. So it could cause issue as well. So I think the main thing is to really focus on making sure you kind of do lots of research and basically you know your team very, very well, and the team kind of can work all together. Everyone knows each other. And so it's important to basically be able to adapt to this fast-paced environment. And that I think all very, very, kind of blockchain related.
So what tips would you have to be responding very quickly to changes, or what actionable tip would you have?
I think it's again maybe comes down all to communication as well. Like the whole team has to be very familiar with everything what's happening, and to have lots of updates regularly, and that would really kind of help to move forward with the project.
Okay, so the operational points, right? Communication
exactly.
between the team, coordination within the team, make sure that people can respond quickly and make sure that people can react quickly. Victor, when you see startups, because how many startup decks are you at New Tribe Capital seeing every week? You mentioned the number before; it was a bit crazy.
This particular time or previously?
Previously, in the bull market.
We've done maybe an invest over 4 to 5 startups every week.
Yeah, but how many decks would you see a week?
30 to 40, depends.
Okay, so you see between 30 to 40 decks a week, and then you pick through those decks and you find gems, and then you invest, 3 to 4 projects a week. So when you're looking at the deck, what red flags are you seeing? I mean, give us some tips here, what not to put and what to put.
I'm going to tell you my number one flag is called reputation. If you, unfortunately, if you start doing some dodgy business, or not you, but a founder, you can clearly see when someone has been successful or when someone has been, trying to do some money grabs from the community. And the community is so small at the moment that everybody knows each other. So that would be number one thing, reputation. You need to have a clean reputation, and you need to be willing to do the right thing. Other things that would be red flags, tokenomics. We do pay attention and really scrutinize tokenomics. We don't, depending on what is the market sentiment, we are more lenient or not to certain type of tokenomics. For example, we don't like generally startups where they have the team tokens releasing earlier than the investors, for example. For us, that's a no-go. What else? The community. The community needs to be, a community that's with some fundamentals. They need to understand what kind of products they are looking forward to, Another thing that we pay attention, it's what kind of problem they're solving. They have to be genuine, and they need to be disruptive as well. We also pay attention to the data room, how much research they've done against other competitors as well, how they compare their valuations. We pay attention to the roadmap as well. We make sure that it's clear and concise and is achievable. And we also see in the teams as well, where they actually proper builders, a set of individuals who they actually want to work very hard, building something better. And when we don't see that enthusiasm or that passion for developing something, great, for us it's also a red flag. We like dynamic teams as well, people that they are confident, people that they can sell themselves. So we pay attention to a lot of things.
So basically, you look through everything with a very fine comb. We understand that. Is there anything really in particular that you look out for?
The team initially. We pay attention to the team. That would be the number one thing that we pay attention to. But obviously we look everything in particular with the lens, because, we're talking about a couple of hundreds of thousands of dollars, it's not a couple of euros that you're actually putting it at risk. It's a large amount of capital that obviously you want to see it grow. At the same time, I'll say, the perception of a VC sometimes is sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not relevant. But we do want to have profits, but we would go with projects that they are ethical, and projects that startups that they actually, as I said, they solve a problem in either. For me, one of the biggest problems at the moment in our space is adoption. I don't see people adopting as the phase that or space that I would like to be. But any project that can promote that, I would totally go for it.
Fantastic, thank you. Alex, at Swissborg, you guys build the craziest community I've ever seen. I mean, the guys, your Swissborg tribe, they wear the merch, they talk about Swissborg at every corner, which is quite an achievement. And as we all know, in web space, if you're building, in Web3, if you're building a Web3 company, community is what you need. You need, a great team of founders. You need great messaging, and then what you need a community to participate in your Web3 project. Would you give some tips how you've achieved that, and how can people build similar crazy tribes around themselves?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, Irina. Just to sum up, what Victor was saying earlier, if you wanted to receive investment from Swissborg Ventures, our pre-qualifying round would simply be broken down into what we call the 5 T's. The first T is the team, the second T is the technology, the third T is the tokenomics, the fourth T is the traction, and the fifth T is the terms and conditions. So that's a simple framework for those of you trying to raise funds. If you can tick all those boxes, or you can have a big tick on one of those boxes to compensate for one of the other boxes that you cannot tick, you would be eligible for an investment with us. And we usually invest between 100K to $500,000, and we're still investing in the bear market. Actually, the quality of the projects have risen since all the crap got flushed out. But Irina, to answer your question in terms of community, I think there are too many companies that brand themselves as a product. And I don't know if this makes sense to any of you out there, but there is no clear identity. There's no identity. All you go on the website, you just hear, get this, get these APYs, get this cheaper, this faster. And you're not actually working for the greater good. It's really important that not only the purpose reflects the principles, the values, everything needs to be aligned with the person, human being, and have an emotional connection. It's not just about logic, guys. You can have the best tokenomics, the best technology in the world, but if you don't have a story that is connected to the great purpose, the greater good, then people just cannot identify to that story, and they don't feel like they're contributing to an ecosystem that wakes them up, with a smile and just really, really makes them happy and passionate about it. And then another thing that's really important that we need to really break from the stupid corporate world is that you cannot have CEOs hiding in all these VIP private rooms, at the events. Go and talk to the people. Go and get them a drink. I go and I serve drinks. I'm CPO of Swissborg. We're a 300 people company, but I don't care. If I need to be the toilet cleaner, I'll be the toilet cleaner at times. So it's really, really important to be human, stop being an asshole like these Fortune 500 CEOs that we see sometimes on Forbes or on CNBC. Be human, and that will resonate with the people watching out there.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much for that. And I see that all the time, how you and your co-founders, how they interact with Anthony and Fazal, how they interact. Cyrus, how they interact with the community, how they interact with everybody who just comes up and says hello to them at the events. And that's really a great change, because you see founders of unicorns, and they become really arrogant, and they forget where they came from. Like, we all came from the same place. None of us knew what crypto was, just 10 to 5 years ago, and then suddenly the co-founders become this completely unapproachable. Jessica, with regards to next steps, right? So you have the team, you have the community, you have a great value proposition and a product. What's next from the marketing point of view? What are the marketing pillars that you would focus on to help the projects progress further in their growth?
That's a really good question. And I think it almost follows on from what Alex has just said. I think he made some excellent points there. And for me, as communities sell products. It's all about, for me, point of view marketing, and it's all about identifying what your product does and how it can impact people. And even if it is a Web3 centric product, which is completely decentralized and it is very much online, there's still so many ways that as a point of view marketing strategy, you can identify as a user, whether you're kind of a high-tech developer or if you're just a retail investor, or if you are a VC looking to acquire, you should be able to tell what the mission statement is, what the brand is trying to sell, the company's beliefs and passions, and also the company's take on market trends as well. I think all of these things really help define the community, help attract a wider community. And then on top of that, that is your kind of fundamental market strategy. And I think people really overlook that. I think a lot of these organizations will start with, and Irina, I know we've seen this at crypto conferences over the past 3 or 4 years, is people will come to you with a white paper or a kind of light paper, a website landing page, and an idea. And they haven't really built anything. And I think to get the next step of being taken seriously in this space, you have to have started to build to show that you are going to make a difference. The market is completely oversaturated in bull market seasons with a lot of projects, with a lot of ideas. I know when I worked at CoinMarketCap, at one point we had 10,000 cryptocurrency tokens listed on CoinMarketCap's data aggregator site, which is just insane when you really think about it. So if you are looking to invest or you're looking to really align with a new organization, you have to understand, okay, have they built something yet? Are they on that path? And that also helps with marketing as well, because you're able to actually demonstrate what is being progressed. And I think there's also a fine line when it comes to marketing, not aligning so much with pushing out something which isn't fully built yet and just pushing out the brand name. People are seeing the industry move so quickly. People are seeing projects come and go. And normally in this kind of crypto winter to bull market season cycle, as Alex said earlier, I think that actually it washes out. There's almost this kind of evolution cycle where people typically see organizations disappear, and maybe 70% of the bad actors or the bad eggs in the cryptocurrency space kind of do get eliminated during these bear cycles. So to watch a project grow is great. Then to watch them slowly market and introduce what they're offering to retail and VC alike, that's a huge step. And that really helps you stand out against the crowd, because it sounds so simple. It sounds really obvious, but only really 10% of the projects that you do see out there already have their first steps of a product when they're able to look for funding. And it's so important to show that you are on this path. It will set you apart from the crowd, and it will help make you so much more enticing for new investors. So that's the one thing I would say, is to get the product on the roadmap and use that as your main marketing tool, but then also have that point of view marketing, so you can show what your organization's beliefs are and also what you kind of can give value to the user.
There's so many great points you mentioned. First of all is, yes, the days where you have an idea and a white paper and you go raise crazy rounds from investors, I think those days are well and truly gone. And I hope we'll never see those days, because back then, that's when a lot of investors suffered, and the confidence in the crypto industry suffered. And I really hope we will not see those days anymore. And another thing is pretty cool as well. Like, you need to show something that you've already delivered, something that you've done, a product, you have a team, show what you've done, right? Because then it shows that you're on a track record to deliver. You mentioned CoinMarketCap. Would you give any free tips for entrepreneurs listening us, how to get featured on CoinMarketCap, how to get featured in tier 1 media? Because we all need attention, right? Every startup, every project needs attention, because through that attention you get users, partners, etc., etc. Any free tips that you have for us?
Of course, and actually, my free tip is something that I've advocated for years, and it's actually how I know most of the people that I'm familiar with from this Twitter space is through cryptocurrency events. For me, cryptocurrency events are amazing. I completely agree with Alex's point: is you can't hide in the shadows. If you have a speaking slot, you've got to hustle the expo floor, and this is where actually you can meet these tier one media representatives that are walking around, and you can align with people. You can say what your understandings are. You can exchange business cards. You can follow up. I was at a metaverse conference in March of this year in Dubai, and I was speaking to one woman who was a publicist for Singapore Vogue, and she was there covering NFT art as fashion items. And you just don't know who you're speaking to at that point. And I think really listening to people, understanding where they're from, exchanging contacts is invaluable. Face-to-face networking is huge, especially in crypto, where you do need to put a name to a face, because so much of the ecosystem is sadly allocated with scams and bad actors. So to go to these events, take some time out. I've never once gone to an event and said, actually, that's not been a good ROI for me when it comes to making amazing contacts and just seeing how people have advanced in the space. So I would say cryptocurrency events for expanding your media network is amazing. If you've not met direct contacts there, you might have met someone that does. And also things like this are really like Twitter Spaces as well. You'll be really surprised what gets picked up by crypto media. And I think these kind of conversations where you're brainstorming, where people can listen in on organizations that have done it, success stories, but also failure stories are equally as valuable for new users. And then I think it also goes back to media outlets, and also consumers don't like to be hard sold. They like to be informed and educated. So as long as you're holding intrinsic value and saying, maybe we didn't get it right in the last quarter, but this is what we did as a startup, and this is what you guys can learn from it. Well, that shows that you're really humble, you're learning from your mistakes, and that's a really interesting take. And that's the kind of thing that if you did send that out to some media contacts that you'd met at a former event, it's more likely to get picked up on than a hard sell press release where organizations typically get, tens, if not hundreds of those per week.
That's great, thank you. So attending crypto events and working the conference floor, and I love crypto events. If anybody has been to a Dubai event, they'll see me there, because I absolutely think it's a fantastic opportunity to meet new people, and also to say hello to old friends, and also to watch the markets. Right? I like how in the bear market you stop seeing all the scammers at the events, and you start seeing, more honest people trying to, work. And then the bear market comes, all the scammers, hopefully we'll get rid of the scammers, and then in the bull market are the tides of the crypto space. And also another thing is, I think gone are the days when investors would just give money to a project and that would be all of the involvement. Nowadays, if you're a really great entrepreneur with a really great project, you'd want your investors to give you more than just money, right? You want smart money. So Victor, in regards to smart money, how are you at New Tribe Capital? How are you actually giving smart money? How are you helping? And I can see New Tribe Capital in the listeners as well, so give them a follow. The VC firm of the year, and according to them, and we're going to hear all about it, not only that they give you money, they give you smart money and a lot of assistance.
Thank you, Ina. So I said earlier that we need to kind of remove that perspective of some VC that they just want to make a quick buck and do not provide any support. So about 2.5 years ago, we saw the potential of not only giving money, but giving money with, as you said, smart moves. In our firm, we've been able to make a huge ecosystem where we have a lot of different other VCs that see eye to eye as us. We have marketing agencies, we provide legal assistance, we provide tokenomics examples. We provide different connections with launchpads, with different other businesses that will be using the technology. For example, if it's B2B case, what else? Helping with fundraise. At the end of the day, when you provide your capital to any project, what you want is for them to succeed. To make a difference, to improve a problem that is happening, or to either create adoption or make things faster or more achievable for the random people, right? So these are the kind of things that we've been focusing on. And with regards to what Jessica and Alex said earlier, it's actually quite interesting what they said. Being human is actually one of the most important things of a CEO. And I'm just gonna like to share a small story about the founder of Zara, Amancio Ortega. I don't know if you've heard about that brand. He's usually seen in the headquarters fixing tables. He was not cleaning toilets, as Alex was saying, but he was, fixing the tables, for example, in the diner room or anything. He would go down on the floor and fix the tables. And this is what makes, a good CEO, someone that is human and keeps his feet on the ground and doesn't go buying Lamborghinis and Porsches while the company is struggling.
And unfortunately, we see that with the Wall Street companies, right? The company is struggling, the company are firing people, and the CEO is paying himself, normally it's himself, the highest bonuses for that decade. And yes, definitely we don't want to see that in the Web 2. Alex, you got excited when I started talking about smart money and how the VCs are there, or supposedly there, to help projects, not just with money, but with more than money.
Yeah, absolutely, Irina. And I think just stressing what you said and what Victor said, like smart money and having a fundraising strategy is critical. One of the biggest mistakes that I see, guys, is people diluting their valuation by trying to have 10 to 15 to 20 VC logos. That to me is the biggest turn off. Like out of all the strategies, if you have 10, 15 VCs sharing allocations of 100, 200K, that's just literally 80% won't do anything for you besides give you their logo. And if you're lucky, a retweet and a newsletter. So do not search for the logos, search for the value. What is the value that each one of these VCs will provide? And I'll give you guys a story. One of the best performing tokens that I've ever been involved with had a no VC policy. All they had were consultants, advisors, angels, and influencers. Not a single VC was involved. And the token, not only the token, but it actually maintained itself. Incredible performance. We're talking about triple digits. And that just shows that at the end of the day, crypto is all about opening access to all, right? And one thing that we don't criticize enough are the traditional VCs. Traditional VCs need to be as criticized as the banks or the investment banks or all the other poor guys that can sometimes get blamed without real rationale behind it. But the VCs here, they just give you as a logo, and then they'll dump on you really hard, creating cascading effects and really hurting your token. So the value added guys, try to always think about who you want to bring on board as early as possible and have a very clear understanding what is the strategy and value that they will add to your project. Are they going to help you find the right COO, the right CFO, the right crypto lawyer like Irina? Are they going to help you find the best YouTubers that match your brand, that will grow your community and traction, and get all of these important people in on as early as possible so you don't have to pay them crazy amounts later on when you're trying to scale?
That's a really great point. And I can a lot of blame and a lot of criticism need to be allocated to where the blame and criticism is due, which is with traditional VCs. And we see how VCs are squeezing the founders, and when the times are good, the VCs are all there, cheering and drinking with them. And when the times are hard, the VCs are nowhere to be seen. And I can see Saeed Aldarmaki has joined us. He is the founder of Shisha Finance, which is a decentralized VC firm, and they're not only trying to build the Web3 and support the Web3 business, but they are Shisha Finance is remodeling and rebuilding the VC business as well. Hi, Saeed, how are you? Do you want to give a quick shout out to Shisha Finance, and how are you different, and how are you supporting the crypto founders? Because nowadays crypto founders need all the help they can get, and I know that from you and from Shisha Finance personally, they're getting a lot of help, not only money but smart money.
Thank you, Irina. Thanks for the kind words. Good to be here. Sorry, I'm like 10 minutes late, but better late than never. I caught a bit about the last few words that Alex was mentioning, and I just want to add, maybe it's not just about VCs or investors or value add, but I think what's equally important is how you set up your tokenomics and how you set up the emissions of the tokens with regards to your roadmap and what you're trying to build, and actually having a product or service that's actually being used and having a clear utility to your token. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's demand versus supply. So if you're controlling the supply and the emissions of the tokens, and you're also creating reasons for people to demand your tokens, then you should be okay. But there's so many different factors that, you know, affect how your business will perform and how your token will perform and so on. But yeah, I'll move on to Shisha Finance. And ultimately what we've been doing for the last 13 months is we've been angel investing at a very early stage, in the seed stage, into projects across different blockchains, across different use cases, and really doing a lot of research, analysis, due diligence, and being very selective with the projects that we work with. But when we do work with a project, we try to be really active, not just in the short term, but also in the long term, to try and help the projects, you know, get to market, and then what they do after they get to market as well. And also, talking about startups, we were a startup, and we've actually done 2 pivots in the last 13 months because of different factors affecting the business and different factors in the market. And the first pivot that we did was after we deployed about $7 million worth of capital into seeding projects. I think we seeded about 40 to 45, and giving the projects the resources that they need, and helping them in every single way we can. And that's proved to be very successful. We've incubated or strategically advised 25 projects in, so we have 70 projects in the portfolio over the past 13 months. And we've been trying to lower the barrier to entry for people who want to get access to a diversified portfolio without having to go through all the work and effort and knowledge and experience and connections that's needed to establish a solid kind of diversified portfolio. So we're just disrupting the traditional VC model. We're using blockchain technology so that we don't have to charge performance fees. We don't have to charge management fees, because there's no middlemen to pay off. And then there's no minimum amount that you need to participate. Everything is done through smart contract. So, there's no minimum amount of period. There's no minimum amount of money that you need to participate with. And I think it's just leveling the playing field and allowing others access that they wouldn't otherwise have as an individual.
That's great. Thank you for this. And that's also what we see, right? Not only Web2 companies are being disrupted by Web2, but by Web3 companies, but VCs are being disrupted, banks are being disrupted. And Jessica works with Fluid Finance, that she'll tell us all about. Every level of the infrastructure is being disrupted, including the banking and the law firms, and which is quite a fantastic thing to see. I want to ask you all one last question before we ask audiences for questions, because I can see a lot of people wanting to ask and wanting to talk. What qualities do you look for in an entrepreneur, right? Because it's all about, in early financing, in the seed financing, it's all about what quality do you look for in entrepreneur, in a founder, and also what advice would you give them? I mean, starting in a business, growing a business, it's super hard. I would not wish it on my worst enemy, and I was a founder, and I would not wish it on my worst enemy. So what one advice would you give them, the founders who are listening to us? Fixe, if you want to start.
Sorry, Jessica's no, okay, perfect. Which advice would I give? I would give them. Well, we've been discussing the price of an asset before, but I would say that first of all, once the project is launched, I wouldn't recommend to the founders to be focusing on the price. If whoever wants to build a unicorn at the moment, they should pay attention on what it does, not what is value on. You don't look at the shares of a company and say, oh, they are down, the product is shit. I actually look at what are they doing, and I'm going to give you an example of a great protocol, Polygon. Polygon at the moment, it's undervalued, in my opinion, and with no financial advice, for example, I can tell you that, the amount of things that they've been building non-stop, it's impressive. So whoever wants to build a company that is going to be disruptive and is going to change and fix a problem, I would tell them, in advance to, once the token is launched, to make sure that, because some investors and community will obviously come and, start flooding and start complaining about the price. But, if having your goals clear and continue building without focusing on the price is actually a pivotal factor for the success of a project. That would be one of my biggest advice that I would give to any founder out there.
Fantastic. And Yusuf managed to join. Thank you so much, Yusuf. You're under Shisha Finance logo there. Welcome. Please give Shisha Finance a follow and check out in details what they're doing. Yusuf, what one advice would you give to entrepreneurs, to founders, because you are supporting so many? So what one useful piece of wisdom you can share with them?
Thank you, and probably getting used to technology to begin with and joining spaces the right way is just a good start. But aside from that, on a serious note, I believe, especially within the crypto space, is if we don't have founders that are familiar with this space and are kind of aware of how to navigate it, then just being amenable to advice and tips and hints and guidance. Us as Shisha Finance and the Incubator, I think that's one of our core strengths. Given that we see so many projects coming through the doors that we may not even invest in, and those that we have in our portfolio, we found that those that have come from a strong traditional background and know what they know and they've got their expertise, as long as they are open to listening to us from the crypto perspective and being able to pivot and navigate in such a fast pace and changing industry, we think that's one key aspect to success for sure.
Fantastic. Thank you. Alex, do you want to speak? You've unmuted your microphone.
Yeah, I'd love to add, that it's really critical to know how to do the floss on the dance floor so that you charm everyone and you make them laugh. No, but I'm kidding. One thing that, Irina, that you know really well is Ikigai. It's a Japanese concept that basically says that your purpose in this world is to do something that you love, something that you can monetize, something that you're good at, and something that contributes to the greater good. And out of all the things that you look at, to me, the most important is passion, even more than skill and intellect. Because skill and intellect will not get you out of the darkest moments, right? Like at Swissborg, to be very open and transparent, we had multiple people that had to leave the company because they just got ill. They were mentally ill, they were exhausted, and it took them 6 to 9 months to resume their professional life in another company just because it was too intense. The intensity is real, as you're saying, Irina. You wouldn't wish this to anyone, including your worst enemy. The intensity is real, but the passion and love for what you're doing will get you out of the darkest tunnels, the darkest moments, thoughts, stress, tears that you have. The only thing that will help you survive is the passion for what you do and the love for what you do. So that is the ultimate recipe for success.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Passion will get you out of bed in the morning at 6 a.m. in a rainy morning to go and actually to continue building. Jessica, your advice to entrepreneurs. You've seen so many, you've interviewed so many as a journalist, and you've seen so many coins failing. Like, what one thing that sort of you see as a common thread that every entrepreneur can utilize to continue building?
I think it's acknowledging that this is such a new space. Crypto is a new and emerging industry. You, as the founder, as a visionary, you're not always going to have the right answers. It's about hiring a team that really helps support your vision, and also being able to get a board of advisors that can help with the technology aspect when new innovations come through, about constantly learning new things and having a level of humbleness to listen to other people and take that advice along the way. I think if an entrepreneur is so straightforward thinking, it's their way or the highway, a lot of employees do tend to burn out. And also it does mean that typically sometimes you don't get the right answers, because sometimes the tech team might have a different way of looking at things, or the marketing perspective. So it's about being able to acquire the right information and implement it in a strong business strategy. I think that's the main thing that comes to my mind right now. Because it's like if you go on LinkedIn and you'll see Web3 advisor or Web3 expert, these job roles don't exist yet. We're still kind of watching this information unfold, and it's changing yearly. I think a year ago we couldn't have expected the industry to be in the state it's in now. So it's all about having this agility, this humbleness to be able to acquire new information and not knowing that it's your way or the highway. That's the one point I would say.
Fantastic. So listen to your team, listen to your advisors, and be flexible and humble. Irina, you see entrepreneurs already, further down the road. So what advice do you have for those who are a little bit further down the road, how to, persevere and battle this 24/7 space?
What I see lots of times is that founders sometimes rushing to launch their tokens, and their company is not quite ready for it. The project is not ready for it. But I understand, they have a need to raise the money, but once they start this process, they realize maybe a legal side is not quite prepared, or tokenomics is not quite prepared, or even marketing could not be ready for that. So it creates more distraction within a company. And I would suggest to not rush launching the projects, and maybe again listen to advisors, do accelerator program, speak to other people in the industry, just to be sure that you're ready for it, because it's a very intense moment as well in the period of company, and it's super important to have a good launch of your token.
Fantastic. Thank you for this. I'm gonna go to Saeed now, but if anybody wants to speak, anybody wants to ask a question of Victor, of Saeed, of Alex, request to be a speaker and I'll bring you up. Saeed, so what one valuable thing you can share with entrepreneurs working their butts off?
Yeah, Irina. I think the one that I really believe in, and the one that Alex mentioned, was passion. I think you want to see founders and teams that are passionate and enjoy what they're doing, because if you're not enjoying what you're doing and you're not passionate about it, then you're not going to put in the extra work that's needed to be successful, and you're not going to get yourself back up when you've been beaten down so hard. And there's tough times as a startup, and I think even when you kind of got to market, then there's still a lot of things that can happen, and there's still a lot of obstacles that come your way and a lot of challenges. And I think being prepared and organized is also equally important. Having the passion is great, having the talent is great, but if you don't have a strategy that you're ready to execute on and be disciplined about and stick to your budgets and stick to the strategy and make sure everybody in the team is aligned with the objectives at hand, and you don't have the right culture within your startup, then things will be really, really difficult. But, you know, there's a lot of factors that impact the decision of whether we take on a project or not. And there's so many questions that we ask of founders. But I think another thing that's important is if you're having conversations with the founders of a project before you decide whether you be involved or not, if you kind of give feedback and you feel that they're resistant to that, or they're not open to specific ideas that you mention or criticism or feedback that you give, then that's a giveaway usually for whether you should be working with that project or not. So I think having a clear strategy and being disciplined about executing on that strategy and having the right attitude is very important.
Fantastic. We have a couple of people who came up to ask questions. Hi, Don. You have a question for one of our speakers or all of our speakers? Maybe we can go to Crunch Network. Crunch Network, do you have a question for us?
So it has been like a very impressive session, learning session for me. I've gained like a lot of knowledge on what like capital firms need to see, and especially in trying to build like a proper token, and especially concerning your tokenomics, how it should be set up and all that. So there's just one very particular question I have to ask. When evaluating crypto companies, and I'm talking about like when looking into data, especially for crypto companies that haven't built anything yet, that are looking for raising capital through like the private sale of the tokens, or like when you're looking at the valuation for a company, what are the terms that all investors would like to see, especially when a particular founder or CEO is presenting like a pitch? There's something that really concerns me, because getting data in building up like your revenue picture only comes from when you already do have like a product, in which most times is what is advised. But I've seen in spaces, and I've noticed that most tokens or coins, they raise capital without having any particular product at the time. And I wonder how, or what is the valuation of how these companies have been built. So
okay, got it. So the question is, I guess, for our VCs in the audience. The question is, if it's at such an early stage that there's no product yet, but they're trying to raise in exchange for tokens to build a minimum viable product, how would you evaluate such a company? Victor, do you want to start?
Yes, I can. I would say that a lot of startups are out there with crazy valuations, and that actually leaves very little room for upside once the project launches. So we tend to actually have a deeper understanding on projects that their valuation is more, I would say, real than a crazy valuation. So I think we would go for projects with a lower valuation rather than the high valuation.
Okay. Alex, do you have any comments on such an early investment stage that there's no product, there's nothing yet, just tokens for sale? Maybe Alex cannot speak because he's traveling. If we go to Saeed, do you have a comment on that? What do you do with projects that they're so early and they're such early stage that there's only tokens there? How would you evaluate such? How will you value such a project?
I'm just a little left a minute. Just give me 2 minutes, Arina. I'll get back.
No worries. Maybe we'll get to the next question. Dawn, if you have a question already, if you can speak, if you're available, ask your question.
Hi, I hope it's me. Don Misha.
Yes. Yes. Hi, Don Misha.
Nice to hear all of you. It's very interesting. Nice to hear you again. I had two things that I wanted to ask. The one you mentioned, when projects launch among founders, there's a lot of issues among them at the beginning if they didn't set strict rules for it to be successful in the future. Do you have any specifics on this kind of rules that you would recommend? And if you can be specific, or whoever, some of you can be specific on this. And secondly, it was like for VCs and all of you who analyze projects, why, I mean, you know how you like to see projects, so why don't you actually share with projects how you want things to be presented and what kind of research you do? I mean, in a more extensive way, so that they can actually tick all the boxes, and for serious projects, they could actually go and really go through everything that you are looking for and try to tick all the boxes and show you that they are serious projects.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that question. That's, I think that was clear. So I think I can answer the first one. Amongst the founders, what sort of agreements do you need? And it always depends on the project, and it always depends on the, what are you doing? Let's say we're doing a Web3 company, and let's say there are 3-4 founders, and those founders need to have an agreement amongst themselves in writing, and that agreement needs to set out their roles, their responsibilities, their obligations, the share of the company, if we're talking about equity, also the tokens which apply to them, and it needs to be, and there needs to be consequences if you don't deliver on your scope of work. What happens then? Because we're all humans. You can get unwell, you can get tired, you can just not interested anymore. What are the consequences? So and it also depends, how many founders are there. If the team is 5, they can carry the load in a certain way. If the team is 2, then the load is completely different. So it really, here's your typical lawyer's answer. It depends. And I guess the second question, who wants to get the second question? Who's out of elevator and the train? Because because the question is, if you know the people, what you're looking for in startups, why don't you tell us what you're looking for, and we'll do that? Said, what's your answer to that?
So I'll go back to the question on the valuation, and like what Victor alluded to, if there's no kind of product, if there's no service, even if there's no MVP or proof of concept, then really the project should be willing to, on listing, the initial circulating supply valuation should be as low as possible, and the same with the fully diluted valuation. It should be as low as possible, and you should be very realistic to give the chance for people who are supporting you at an early stage and people who are supporting you at the public sale stage the opportunity to get a good return on their investment. So I think it's important to have the lowest possible valuation, but then at the same time, because you don't really have a product or service yet and you're building towards that, you should also have the correct lockups and vesting periods to kind of match with your roadmap and what you're going to deliver in that roadmap. So lowest valuation possible, and also, as an investor, if you're getting a low valuation, then you should be also willing to take on a longer lockup period and vesting period. On the point about telling startups what you would like them to see do and how you would like them to shape, their tokenomics maybe, or their strategy, or whatever it is, we always, when we have the conversations with the founders of projects, before we decide to add them to our portfolio or not, we always ask these questions, and we always point them to these directions, and we always tell them, this is what we'd like to see. What do you think about it? And, if they say, they want to stick to their guns and do it their way, then more often than not, we won't work with them. But if they're open to change and they understand that, maybe they're very strong in the kind of business that they're running on the traditional side or on the Web 2 side, but they're not very strong in terms of the crypto side and the Web 3 side of things, and you're giving them the right tokenomics and you're giving them the right structure, and they're willing to listen to that, then that's great. But we always make sure that we do upfront kind of say what we'd like to see, and we always give feedback. Even if we don't take on the project, we just tell them why we didn't take it on. So we always try to give free advice before we work with the project and see how they react to it. And then we continue to do so even after we start working with them.
Fantastic. Thank you. Please.
Yeah, so I just want to piggyback on what Saeed said, which couldn't be better framed. But I think it's really important, guys, that if there's no proof of concept, there's no technology, it's just a team, your valuation will be anywhere between 1 million fully diluted all the way to maybe 7-8 million maximum, right? Once you hit the 10 million to 20, that's when you already have some technology built, you have some smart contracts, you have a little bit of traction online, and then anything over 25 million, it starts, you really have to justify why you have a market cap over 25 million fully diluted. And then, of course, one thing that's really important when picking your valuations is a lot of people will just choose the leader as the reference point. So they're going to say, oh, I'm the next Axie Infinity, and look at their market cap. And that to me is also a red flag. I want you to tell me 10 projects, or at least 5 projects, from the best performing to the poorest performing, and give us an average, give us a median on what is the market cap fully diluted average that you have across this specific asset class or sub-asset class. Another big mistake that I see very often, guys, if you're raising funds right for your project, is they're going to have like the seed round and strategic round right next to each other. So literally, like, let's imagine June 30th is the cutoff date for seed, and then July 1st is the opening for strategic. That to me doesn't make any sense. There's 1 day difference between the two, and that is also a big mistake. If there's evaluation, there has to be progress amongst the project. There has to be new technology. There has to be better traction on the socials, a larger community, right? So if you do have bigger valuations across several rounds, there has to be some sort of development and progress that can justify that, or else the people who are coming in on July 1st, they're going to be like, hey, wait a minute, I'm literally 1 week away from XYZ VC or XYZ influencers, and I'm paying twice the price for literally the same exact product, the same exact project, and nothing has changed within the space of a few days. So I think what Saeed is saying is very, very important, that if you do not have any type of technology proof of concept or anything like that, you have to be aiming your valuation as low as possible. And I know that sacrifices more tokens, right? Because the lower you put your valuation, the more tokens you're going to have to sell. However, some of the very successful projects, by providing better returns, as Saeed is saying, better ROI to the investors, they tend to get more out of them in the mid to long term. Because a satisfied investor who's making money, he's going to go as far as possible. He's going to hold your hand as far as he can. As long as you're running, he will run with you. So even if some people think, oh, I feel like my valuation is a bit low, but you're giving back in terms of ROI to the investors, to the angels, to the influencers, to the advisors, the consultants, whoever that smart money is, they will help you not just until the launch, but they will help you to continue build momentum throughout your career and path towards your vision and success.
That was brilliant. Thank you so much for this. We have the last question from Women of Steel NFT. I have to give some preferences here. The last question, Women of Steel. Do you want to ask your question? Hi, Women of Steel.
Yeah, hi.
What? It's a guy?
Hello, guys. Basically, today our founder was not here, so I was.
Okay, so you identify as a woman today. That's fine. Welcome to 2022. Tell us, give us your question.
So actually, I'm the co-founder of this particular project. Basically, Sahar is our main founder, and she was not here because of some mom things. Like she's also the mom, so she was busy, and we have to in a spaces.
It's okay. No worries. Just ask the question.
Yeah, I have just very important question. Like I was seeing Irina about your profile, and we recently followed you. I have very a big question regarding this: how to tackle with NFT marketing scam peoples around the globe, because we already lost ton of money in marketing stuff, also in building the community, and a lot of things happened. Even that particular company during the meeting with us. One had attacked us in terms of website hijacking and other stuff. So we recovered the data, we recovered all the things because of our developer team and all the things. But we are at this particular stage, we are so much pissed off because of these particular 99% of NFT marketing company scams. So how we can tackle with this? Like we are a new project, okay, and our project is not just we are not here just for the just for the here to bring the names and all things. We are here for making the community in a better form. We are here to giving back to the community. If you can see our roadmap, maybe after this, you will see that there is a premium loot box. There's also events and other things, and we want to work on that. But we are a little maybe lazy on the making the community, and also the fact is that we had been scammed with a lot of peoples around the world, and especially there is a lot of companies from Argentina. They just do a lot of scams, and we were the victim of that. So how we can just my main question is that how we can tackle with those particular scammers, so no other new project gonna experience that thing that we had experienced.
I suppose there are multiple ways to scam a project or to scam investors, and one scam is very different from another one, right? Have you been, is it a cyber attack? Then it's a completely different tool. Is it social engineering, that somebody's pretending to be you and getting money out of your investors? For example, on a weekly basis, I get a message from, a fake Alex asking me for a couple of BTC and a fake Jessica asking me for a couple of BTC, and they get the same messages from a fake Irina. So they welcome to crypto, right? The scammer on every corner. But also what I understood, you're talking about projects that are sort of marketing agencies, and they're pretending to give a service and they actually don't give you a service, right? So again, welcome to crypto. And as Yusuf, remember the other day we were having exactly this conversation. There's so many marketing services out there, and you pay and they deliver completely nothing, or the return on investment is so low that you basically advise all your friends and partners not to go with this very campaign or with this very marketing services agency. I guess the answer is have a team of people who support you, who you surround yourself with, because then you can share the information, right? I message Alex, hey, do you know this marketing agency? Because they're saying that they're doing your marketing services, and Alex answers he's never heard of them, right? So this is how not to go with this service provider, and it applies for everything. It's just in crypto you need to take a bit extra few steps to check everybody's credibility and to check everybody's offering, because unfortunately there's so many undecent characters in this space. But it's the same with every new technology, so let's not bash crypto space too badly. Everyone, thank you so much. We went over the hour. Our next session will be specifically dedicated to business models and token economics. Today, we talked very briefly, and Alex and Saeed and Victor talked very briefly about business models and token economics, how the numbers need to stack up. So the next session, we will talk about it in details for 1 hour. And after each session, the session will be transcribed into how-to article and published in Tier 1 publication. And also will be a podcast that you can really listen and actually, take notes and execute. So experts from the token economic space will specifically talk about how to structure your token economics account, how to distribute the tokens. I want to thank all our speakers and the hosts and the co-hosts and the listeners. Please give them all a follow. Check out what they're doing, send your pitch decks, and I really want to thank you all guys for taking the time out of your really, really busy day and sharing your wisdom. I will share the article with you next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Irina.
Thanks, Irina.
Thank you, Irina.
Thank you, Irina. Take care.
Have a good one.